Yeah, we back. Now, today's gonna be a quick video. I'm gonna be responding to a comment that I got in my comment section, and I'm gonna be discussing the topic of sanctions, right? Because as you already know, I've been discussing the various economic and diplomatic sanctions that's been coming down on Kagame and his regime. And I had a subscriber come into the comment section and raise an argument that I would like to challenge. Basically, he said that if the Western nations are coming down on Kagame, that must mean that he's doing something right? If he's getting sanctioned by the United States and the UK, then that must mean that he's actually doing a good thing, because if these nations sanction you, that must mean that you are on the right side of history. So in today's video, I want to discuss the nuance of that argument, because I've actually seen that argument in my comment section a number of times, so I might as well, go ahead and attack it. But anyways, before we get into that, you already know, album out now. Album available everywhere. Apple Music, Spotify. Go to the homepage of my YouTube channel, my playlist section, Sahel 1816. Enjoy yourself, man. Now let's get back into it. Now back to the topic of sanctions. We have to discuss the nuance of that. Yes, sanctions have been used against individuals, prominent leaders who are actually directly challenging Western hegemony, who are actually challenging so-called white supremacy, whatever you want to call it. Yes, sanctions have been used to undermine those individuals. But one thing we have to understand, everybody who is sanctioned is not automatically somebody who is challenging so-called white supremacy or challenging European hegemony. There's a lot of nuance we have to discuss in this conversation. But anyways, let me jump into the comment. Take a look up on the screen. This brother said, I know you are busy with your career, but please do some more research on Rwanda. I will give you a good tip. If the United States, Canada, and the West are sanctioning Rwanda, then Kagame is most likely doing something right. Have you ever heard of the West sanctioning someone bad before? They sanction countries like Cuba, Libya, Iran, China. That puts Kagame in very good company. While I don't have all the information, that formula has proven itself many times. One love. Then he went on to say, there is a saying, to be an enemy of the United States, the West, is dangerous, but to be a friend is deadly. The DRC, the Congo, is also being assisted by Germany, the UK, and Canada. Wow, looks like the same crew that got Lumumba. Is it birds of a feather or just political naivete on the part of DRC? Now, I want to respond to his comment. He said that if Western countries sanction you, then you must be doing something right. He also went on to say, have you ever seen the West sanction somebody bad before? Well, my friend, just a couple months ago, just recently, take a look up on the screen. The United States sanctions the Sudanese paramilitary group leader, right? The Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, them fake Arabs in Sudan that are genociding the blacks. Yeah, they sanctioned this guy as well. Now, if you want to say this guy's a revolutionary standing against white supremacy, then be my guest. Like I say, it's a lot of nuance in this discussion that we have to discuss and dissect. Now, I would ask the brother in the comment section, would you classify this individual, the leader of the Rapid Support Forces in Sudan? I think his name is Hameti, or his name is Dagalo, or whatever. He has a bunch of different aliases. Would you classify this guy as somebody who you believe as, oh, he must be doing something right because the United States sanctioned him, right? Would you also give this guy the stamp of approval? Somebody who has been implicated in the wholesale massacre of black Africans in Sudan, right? Some little fake wannabe Arab supremacist who not only has he been implicated in the massacre and the genocide of the black Sudanese, but he's also involved in the plundering of the natural resources, the plundering of the mineral wealth. And everybody knows this guy's one of the biggest mineral traffickers on the African continent, taking the gold from Sudan and shipping it off to the Arabs in the Middle East. Because like I said, unfortunately, we got a lot of these guys in the Sudan, these little mixed breed, fake wannabe Arab supremacists who they believe they're more Arab than black African. So because of that, we have guys like this, right? Collaborating with the Arabs in the Middle East, right? Massacring black Africans to establish his little Arab hegemony in Sudan. And this guy was, yes, he was sanctioned by the United States and other Western nations. So just because he was sanctioned by the United States, does that automatically mean that we're supposed to be in support of this guy? He's automatically on the right side of history? No. So we have to be, we have to critically analyze things, and we can't just automatically have, one-dimensional thinking, right? Oh, the West sanctioned him, so automatically he must be a good guy. No, that's not how it works. There's nuance in this discussion. Now, for example, take a look up on the screen. You remember the son of the president of Equatorial Guinea, right? His son was sanctioned because of, high-level corruption, embezzlement, and lavish spending and all this nonsense, right? Take a look up on the screen. On Thursday, The son of Equatorial Guinea's president was sanctioned for misappropriating millions of dollars, which London said was spent on luxury mansions, private jets, and a $275,000 glove that was worn by Michael Jackson, right? So because this guy was sanctioned for embezzlement and corruption, does that automatically mean that, oh man, the West sanctioned you, so you automatically must be a good guy? This guy right here, right? He got his hair slicked back like a white man, right? This guy right, listen, stop. Just because somebody is sanctioned does not automatically mean they were challenging or posing a threat to white supremacy. No, that's not how it works, man. I mean, look at this guy's hair, for God's sake. Like I said, man, this guy's hair is slicked back like a white man. Come on, man. Anyways, moving on. Take a look up on the screen. The United States sanctioned Haiti's ex-president, Michel Martelly, for drug trafficking, right? Take a look up on the screen. Martelly abused his influence to facilitate drug trafficking and has sponsored multiple Haiti-based gangs, the State Department deputy spokesperson said in a press statement. Now, listen, I can tell you with 100% absolute certainty, the former president of Haiti, Michel Martelly, has never challenged white supremacy a day in his life. But as you can see, he was also sanctioned by the Western nations. He was also sanctioned by the United States as well, right? So that goes to show everybody who's sanctioned is not necessarily some type of freedom fighter. Take a look up on the screen. Canada sanctions the ex-president Martelly's brother-in-law and former Haitian politician. Right, so this guy's brother-in-law, I think he goes by the name of Charles Saint-Remy, one of the biggest drug traffickers in the Western Hemisphere. Right, one of the biggest, for real, one of the biggest hustlers walking the planet. High-level drug dealer. His brother-in-law was the president, so you already know, he's on a different level with it. When your brother-in-law is the president, you're on a different level with the drug dealing. Now, the reason why these guys were sanctioned, in my opinion, even though for the longest time they received so much privilege and backing from the West until they ended up getting sanctioned by the West, is because I believe it comes down to simply grassroots efforts and organizing, right? The Haitian community themselves was calling up their local politician, calling up the federal government, writing letters, right, saying basically, how come you're supporting these guys? Why are you standing next to these guys? Why are you backing these guys when you know they're involved in high-level criminality? And eventually, after a very long time, after many years of putting pressure, these sanctions began to come down. And of course, as we know, Western nations, they might stand next to you at first when you serve a purpose. But once you are no longer useful, once you are no longer able to serve their interests, they just throw you in the garbage can, right? So, like I said, at one time, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton was backing these guys. Now, all of a sudden, turn their back, sanction them boys. Now, let's continue. Take a look up on the screen. Canada imposes sanctions against the Haitian economic elites. Let's get into it. These sanctions target 3 high-profile members of the economic elite in Haiti: Gilbert Bijo, Renaud Deeb, and Sharif Abdallah. That's these 3 guys right here up on the screen, right? To the left, Renaud Deeb. In the middle, Gilbert Bijo. And to the right, Sharif Abdallah. Now, take a look up on the screen. Renaud Deeb financed gang members to safeguard his company and secure the uninterrupted transport of his imported goods. These gangs also pressured custom officers to evade inspections. Now, as you can see, Renaud Deeb, the guy to the left, right, so he was implicated in the financing of armed terrorist groups, right, to safeguard his economic interests, right, as a so-called businessman in Haiti. Now, I believe all 3 of these guys right here, their ethnic origins trace back to the Middle East, whether that might be Syria, Lebanon, Palestine. That's where a lot of these guys are from, right? A lot of these guys are descendants of immigrants who came to the country during the U.S. occupation about a century ago, and they were empowered under the U.S. occupation, and they received the benefit and the privilege of being able to do business between Haiti and the United States. And just like many individuals, right, at first, these guys received the support and the backing of the West, and then eventually the West turned on you and sanctioned you. Now, the gentleman in the middle goes by the name of Gilbert Bijo, right? I believe that he is the descendant of immigrants from Syria. He is from the small hat community. He has connections with Israel. And last time I checked, he was the richest man in all of the Caribbean, right? So the richest man in the Caribbean is a Jewish man from Haiti. And he was also sanctioned, I believe, about a year ago as well. Take a look up on the screen. Gilbert Bijo, Renaud Deeb, and Sharif Abdallah are accused of facilitating the illegal entry of large caliber weapons into Haiti, which they distribute to armed criminals in order to cause trouble in the country. Between them, these 3 alleged criminals control the majority of the ports in Haiti, which often operate outside the control of the Haitian state. Gilbert Bijo, the founder of the GB Group and frequently described as Haiti's richest man, has built a vast business empire that spans industries from construction and energy to food production. His wealth, however, has come under renewed scrutiny due to his use of offshore accounts and recent sanctions imposed by the Canadian government. While Bijo has remained politically discreet, his economic power makes him an influential figure in Haiti's turbulent environment. In addition to his activities in Haiti, Bijo's business interests extend to the Dominican Republic and Florida, where he and his family own property and have expanded their enterprise. The group's energy holdings include operations under the Texaco brand, which services multiple countries in the Caribbean. Now, that's why I say we have to discuss the nuance in these topics, right? Just because you were sanctioned by the West does not automatically mean that you are legitimate or you are honorable. That does not mean that, right? Sometimes you get sanctioned by the West and you were actually engaged in criminality, right? So it's not an absolute, black and white binary discussion, right? Just because you were sanctioned by the West, that means you were some type of freedom fighter. No, sometimes you were sanctioned by the West because you were actually engaged in criminality, and maybe due to the public backlash, maybe due to a variety of reasons, they decided to step back and actually lay down some punishment for your actions. So we got to understand, just because somebody is sanctioned by the West, that does not mean that they were so-called, fighting the power. No, that's not the case. Sometimes that might be the case, but it's not always the case. I can tell you 100% with absolute certainty, these three men up on the screen, these men are criminals, and they should get way more than just a sanction. Now, let's continue. Now, it was not only these three men of the so-called Haitian economic elite that were sanctioned. It was actually three more as well. Take a look up on the screen. Canada imposes additional sanctions against members of the Haitian economic elite, right? These latest sanctions target three members of the Haitian economic elite businessmen, Marc-Antoine Accra, Carl Brown, and Jean-Marie Vaub. These three guys right here. Right now, take a look up on the screen. In 2015, Marc-Antoine Accra ordered thousands of kilos of cocaine and heroin from Colombia to distribute to the United States. Gregory George, who unloaded the drugs, was sentenced to a year in Miami with time served, while Accra is still free. Now, take a look up on the screen. As you can see right here, Marc-Antoine Accra to the left with Mark Zuckerberg, to the right with Bill Clinton. A Haitian man of Lebanese descent, right? Like I said, a lot of these guys came from the Middle East, came and settled in Haiti, came from the Middle East, migrated to Haiti, and have been engaged in high-level criminality. Now, about a decade ago, there was this big scandal that he was involved in. Take a look up on the screen. How the DEA let one of Haiti's biggest drug busts slip through their fingers. The Panamanian flag cargo ship pulled into a privately owned Haitian port in broad daylight with a secret buried under a mountain of imported sugar. 700 to 800 kilos of cocaine and 300 kilos of heroin with an estimated street value of $100 million. Now, like I said, this is the level of drug dealing that the Haitian economic elites be involved in, right? Not no little, selling dime bags and, selling, 3.5s. Nah, these guys is coming in with $100 million shipments, straight from Colombia, going straight to Miami. And this guy as well, he was also sanctioned by the Western nations. So just because you are sanctioned by the Western nations, like I said, doesn't automatically mean that you are standing for something honorable. It's not a binary yes or no, black and white type of discussion. There's nuance in the discussion. There's a variety of reasons why the Western nations might sanction somebody. It's not only because they're an honorable freedom fighter. No, it's not always the case, right? Sometimes criminals and corrupt individuals, they do get sanctioned as well. Now, the reason why these guys, specifically the Haitian economic elites, were sanctioned is because the Haitian community themselves has been putting pressure on these governments, has been putting pressure on these politicians, asking them, why do you give these guys the stamp of approval? Why do you allow them to operate freely? Why do you allow them to own property and bank accounts and launder money to your country and into your economic system? So because the Haitian community and the Haitian diaspora has put pressure on these governments, that's the reason why these sanctions have begun to come down. Mainly due to the public backlash, right? And that's why I say these nations sanction people for a variety of reasons, right? Not only just to, suppress a so-called freedom fighter, but also to protect their image, right? Also, the public backlash. And that's a big reason. If there's enough public backlash surrounding a topic, the so-called international community will react in order to protect their image. That's why I say it's a lot of nuance in this topic that we have to take into account, right? You can't just automatically jump on the bandwagon of everybody who gets sanctioned, because that's not how it works, right? Sometimes corrupt individuals do get sanctioned as well, right? Sometimes people engage in criminality, they get sanctioned as well. Now, I want to go back to the topic of the Congo and Rwanda and the sanctions coming down on Kagame, right? Now, when you say that the reason why Kagame's getting sanctioned is because, if Kagame's getting sanctioned by the West, that must mean that he's doing something right. I feel like that really undermines the work that, for example, like I said, the Congolese Minister of Foreign Affairs, Teresa Kayikwamba, that kind of undermines the work that she's been putting in, right? In my opinion, the reason why them sanctions are coming down is a testament to the tireless work that she has been doing, right? she has been going directly to Kagame's economic partners, all of Kagame's biggest sponsors, all his backers and his donors, and she has been getting all the economic aid revoked. She has been getting all the deals canceled. She has been on the front line diplomatically smashing on Kagame, right? She has been doing her job as a foreign minister. So I think when we simply just simplify things down to, oh, the reason why the West is sanctioning Kagame is because Kagame, he's fighting white supremacy. No, the reason why Kagame is getting smashed on the diplomatic front is because Teresa Kaikwamba, she has been putting in work, and Kagame's foreign minister, Olivier Ndugunrehi, he's not putting in no work. He's not getting no victories, right? And I really think that's the true narrative, right? The narrative is not that Kagame's fighting against Western hegemony. The narrative is that Kagame's Minister of Foreign Affairs is not putting in no work, and he's getting smashed by Teresa Kaikwamba, right? Because as soon as the M23 began their invasion and their offensive, Teresa Kaikwamba, like I said, she went directly to Kagame's sponsors. As you know, Kagame, he's a darling of the West. So what did she do? She went directly to the Western nations who back him, right? She flipped the narrative on them, right? Because Kagame receives billions of dollars in aid, and he's always being promoted by the West as this legendary, visionary African leader. So Teresa Kaikwamba, she flipped the narrative all the way around, right? She said, Kagame's not this guy that you guys portray him to be, right? And she exposed the double standard, right? She said, listen, not only is Kagame not the man you portray him to be, but the Western nations that sponsor him, you are also complicit in his crimes, right? So she attacked the Western nations. She attacked the credibility by saying that if you stand next to Kagame, you are also complicit in his criminality, right? That is how she controlled the narrative. That is how she was able to get sanctions on Kagame, because she framed the narrative in a way that also implicated the Western nations in the crimes going on in the Congo, right? So in order to protect their reputation, the Western nations decided to sanction Kagame in order to distance themselves away from the backlash surrounding him at the moment, right? They don't want to get involved in the backlash. So like I said, in order to protect their image, they'll throw somebody else under the bus. Just like with the so-called Haitian economic elites. The United States has been in bed with the so-called Haitian economic elites for the past 100 years, for the last century, right? And after 100 years of them working together, they decided to sanction them because of the public backlash. So like I said, man, everything isn't always black and white binary discussion. Oh, if you're sanctioned by the West, you are automatically on the good side. That's not how it works. That's not how it works, man. It's nuance. It's nuance, man. And also, we have to be careful not to undermine the efforts of those who are actually putting in work in their occupation. Like Teresa Kaikwamba, she has been putting work. She has been putting in work, and she deserves the credit for the diplomatic victories she has been able to obtain for her country, right? She has been on the offensive, smashing no Kagame, and we need to respect that instead of undermining that and simply simplifying it down to the reason why Kagame's getting sanctioned is because, oh, he's standing against European hegemony. That's not the case. The fact of the matter is, undisputed, the Congolese Minister of Foreign Affairs is excellent at what she does. She is amazing at what she does. And the Rwandan Minister of Foreign Affairs, he is simply incompetent, right? He's simply incompetent at what he does as a foreign minister. And that's why on the diplomatic front, he has been taking nothing but losses. And Teresa Kaikwamba has been accumulating nothing but victories. And like I said, how was she able to do that? By controlling the narrative, right? Controlling the narrative. We already know that Western nations love to lecture the world and wag their finger about so-called protecting human rights, right? So she decided to weaponize that against them by saying that you always lecture the world about human rights, but here you are bankrolling a regime that's engaged in crimes against humanity, right? So she backed the Western nations into a corner, right? She's saying you are bankrolling a government that is involved in displacing millions of Africans, right? Pillaging the natural resources, engaged in crimes against humanity, right? Sexually assaulting women, right? Killing civilians. The way that she approached the topic was genius, because not only did she undermine Kagame's reputation, but she also implicated the Western nations in his criminality as well by saying that because you endorse Kagame, you are also his accomplice in his criminality, right? You're also an accomplice to his crimes, right? So she backed them into a corner in a genius display of diplomatic finesse. I tell you right now, if I was a head of state, Teresa Kaikwamba would absolutely be a member of my administration. When it comes to the Minister of Foreign Affairs for Rwanda, I would never hire this guy in my administration. This guy puts in no work. All he does is sit on Twitter talking crap. This guy don't put in no work. He ain't get no victories for Kagame, not once, not yet. And like I said, going back to the guy's comment, right? He said, oh, if the West is standing against Kagame, that must mean Kagame is doing something right. Well, I would tell him this. The West has been standing behind Kagame for years and years and years, right? So the Western nations have been standing behind Kagame basically his entire career. That's why it was genius for Teresa Kaikwamba to go directly to his Western sponsors and get the aid cut off, to get the deals cut off, because that is his economic lifeline, right? The Western nations are his biggest economic partners and his biggest economic sponsors. So that's why she went straight to the Western nations to get the sanctions, because she knows that's where you hit Kagame where it hurts, right? Go to his Western sponsors and turn off the tap, cut off his resources, cut off his access to funding and revenue. And as you already know, you need money to finance a military campaign. So because Kagame is financing a military campaign against the Congo, Teresa Kaikwamba went directly to his Western sponsors, the one that are funding him and sending him revenue, and she decided to cut off the revenue. So now he's not going to be able to finance the military campaign because she has cut off his revenue. She has cut off his economic resources. So to me, that was a stroke of genius on her part. She attacked Kagame's reputation. She attacked the Western nations that sponsor him, and by extension implicated them in his crimes as well. And then on top of that, she publicly shamed and humiliated the Western governments by highlighting the fact that they've been the one sponsoring Kagame, backing Kagame, funding Kagame, and arming Kagame, which made it possible for him to constantly destabilize the Congo over the past 3 decades, right? That's why I say we have to approach these topics with nuance, right? It's not black and white. To summarize it in simple terms, right? Kagame sent the M23 into the Congo to attack the Congolese government. And the Congolese government went directly to Kagame's sponsors, his Western backers, and cut off his economic lifelines. And before I end the video, I just want to ask the Kagame fanboys. Kagame, like I said, he's been a darling of the West for my entire life. So how are you guys trying to rebrand Kagame into somebody who's standing up against the West when he's been in lockstep riding with the West for his entire career? Like I said, his biggest backers and his biggest sponsors have been the Western colonial imperial nations. No different than Alassane Ouattara, no different than Bola Ahmed Tinubu, no different than Mobutu back in the 80s, no different than President Bazoum, the former president of Niger, who got overthrown by the military, no different than President Ruto of Kenya. Kagame is cut from that same stock. So when y'all get in my comment section and y'all try to make it seem like because currently Kagame is getting spanked by the Western nations that somehow he's some type of anti-West freedom fighter, I just sit back and laugh, man. Anyways, man, I'm going to play some clips from the Congolese Minister of Foreign Affairs, right? You know, because like I said, she's been smashing on Kagame diplomatically. So I'm going to pay homage to her. You know what I'm saying? So run the clips and we out.
Beyond condemnation, what do you think needs to happen?
We need sanctions. We need firm sanctions. And when we speak of sanctions, we do not speak of sanctions that target the Rwandan population, but sanctions that actually target the Rwandan leadership. First of all, sanctions along the chain of command, because there is a clear evidence link between the Rwandan army and the M23, and of course between decision makers in Kigali. So there needs to be accountability along that chain of command, and there is legal precedent for that, not just in the DRC, but in other cases.
Spread the word. Spread the word. Yeah. This is not just about Congo. This is about humanity. You can't get away. You can't get away with killing people for 30 years just like that. You can't get away with killing peacekeepers just like that. So it is a scandal. People should be ashamed to walk in there. Yeah.
Absolument.
After what their country is doing. People should be ashamed. And we will remind them of that. And the ones who stand by silently and do not do anything, we will remind them everywhere, at every single opportunity. We will remind them. They will not rest, they will not sleep, because we are not resting, we are not sleeping, our people are dying. But tell me, since when and for which of your member states has it become a problem to agree on the respect of territorial integrity? For which of your member states is it more acceptable to condemn the massacre of civilians with words rather than prevent it with actions? For which of your member states is it still admissible to look away when fundamental principles of international law are violated in the name of political calculations or economic interests?
And the objective, well, according to the M23, to overthrow the legal government in Kinshasa, but also the proven objective of continuing their pillaging of natural resources in the eastern DRC and shipping them over to Rwanda, which then end up on the world market as so-called Rwandan minerals.
Took all my losses and now I got racks. Took all my losses and made that shit back. Plan to make gold, I need plenty of plaques. Making my enemies empty the stash. Feel like a see I feel like Chiani. African gold is all over my body. African diamonds adorning in my fingers. African kid when you look at my features. Enemy watching, I gotta get paid. Enemy watching and stalking my page. Watching my moves and they study my ways. Copy my energy, riding my wave. Enemy watching me like an obsession. Heart of a king, I don't need no acceptance. No, they gon' try but can't stop the progression. No, they gon' tribe, but can't stop the ascension. Foot on the gas and I gotta go hard. Straight to the top, I've been down for too long. Plotting revenge, I'ma make them regret it. Ain't no more talking, I got too much leverage. Talking uranium, diamonds, and gold. Keep that shit real, I wish death on my foes. Keep that shit real, I ain't blocking my blessings. Stacking my profit and then I invest it. Feeling untouchable, energy sacred. When I pull up, know my enemies hate it. Setting up shop at a secret location. Chopper gon' sound like a standing ovation. Moving in silence, I never been regular. One of a kind, I ain't got no competitors. Son of a king, I'm the kingdom inheritor. Do what I want, I don't care what you telling us. Say to myself, me and my team. Walk in the spot, but they knowin' my name. Beautiful passenger, bet she gon' ride. Keep it authentic, I'm never gon' change. Always been solid, I'm built to survive. Gotta stay focused, I'm deep in the game. Never surrender, I got too much pride.